Welcome. Would help to get the camera right. Welcome to this edition of Hand Raised Guys presented by Comer Heating and Air, Southern Air Conditioning and Heating. It should be Hand Raised Guy, I suppose, because it's just me this evening on Thursday, February 27th. Hope everyone's having a great week as we get closer and closer to Friday, the end of the week. A big weekend ahead to talk about. We'll get to all of that in a minute. But first, I'll tell you that we're brought to you by Comer Heating and Air, Southern Air Conditioning and Heating. Different name, same great people, products, and services. If you live in Oxford, Batesville, Tupelo, or the surrounding area, call Comer, 662-801-1777. If you live in Hernando, Memphis, South Haven, Olive Branch, those areas, call Southern, 662-429-4429. It's absolutely gorgeous, perfect, frankly, day in Oxford today. It's probably 60, I'd guess 65 degrees or so. It's going to drop into the 40s tonight, so it's perfect. Tonight's one of those nights you don't need a heating and air system, but if you live in Mississippi, Memphis, you know that is not the case over the course of the year. We're going to get a little more dose of winter probably here in a couple of weeks, and then here comes the spring, which is awesome, but here comes the warmth. You want to make sure that air conditioner is ready to go. So now's a perfect time to get them to come out, check it out. If you have a problem, you have plenty of time to fix it before the hot weather gets here. Comer and Southern will take great care of you. Eric and all the people at Comer, Hunter, all those guys, they're awesome. They'll be awesome to you as well. I'm in the Clark Ford studios. Clark Ford is in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900 is the number. Call it. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He will send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. It's right to the bottom line. There's no hassle. There's no haggle. You get your quote, and the rest is completely up to you. You can shop that quote around. You can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do, and that's hop into a Clark Ford today. Corey and Alan and all the people at Clark Ford, they want to be your car guy. They want to be your truck guy. They'll prove to you what that means when you make that first call, 662-257-1900. Guest will join on the Campbell Clinic Hotline. From fractures and sports injuries to complex spine and limb conditions, the pediatric orthopedic physicians at Campbell Clinic in Oxford are the only specialized pediatric orthopedic team in North Mississippi, providing expert care for growing bodies. Visit campbellclinicoxford.com to schedule an appointment or call 901-759-3111. This will be the Friday Blue Sky Live. If you are coming into Oxford this weekend, got baseball going on this weekend, Ole Miss and Wright State starting Friday. You got Ole Miss, Oklahoma basketball, a big basketball game, I think, for the Rebels on Saturday. That's at 1 o'clock. So if you're coming in for any or all of that, or you're just coming in to hang out, you're leaving Oxford to go somewhere, anywhere in North Mississippi, anywhere in the state of Mississippi, really, you see a blue sky, stop. That'd be a great place to fill up your tank. You can also go inside. It's always going to be clean, always going to be nice people. They're going to take care of you. Got great beer selection, snacks, ribs, all of those things at Blue Sky all over Mississippi. So appreciate everybody being with me here. Mark says we beat Oklahoma, then we can talk. Let's see. Grind says, what y'all's playing for the SEC and NCAA tournament in terms of live streaming? I don't know. We hadn't really talked about it. I'm going to hang on, caller. 1 second. I'll be right to you. I'm going to go to the SEC tournament probably on that Tuesday, probably after the show that morning. I'll probably head to Nashville. It's 4 hours from here. We'll do a show Wednesday. I would assume that we'll do a show every day that we can. If Wi-Fi works, it should in most hotels. And then on, I don't know about the Thursday night. Depends on when Ole Miss plays, how long Ole Miss is there. And then the next week, the same thing with the NCAA tournament. And then we'll just kind of play it out. Kind of play it out from there. That's kind of the plan, I think. Hey, caller, who do we have?
What's up, Neal? It's Tupelo.
What's up, Tup?
Hey, your Cubs look really good.
7-0-2. We just can't lose. We're 7-0-2. We had a big lead over the Angels, and some reliever let it get away today. I told Carson it was just devastating, but you know, it is what it is. So, but we're not losing. 2 ties, 7 wins. I mean, we're on our way to a dominant 2025, obviously.
You know, there's nothing better than overreactions to spring training. Last year, the Cardinals didn't hit a home run, I think, until like the last or second to last spring training game. And I remember seeing how bad the Cardinals home run stats are going to be for the year. And that ended up actually being very true. That's why we didn't make the wild card. It wasn't because of the pitching. It was definitely because of the hitting. But anyway, yeah, I had to mess with you about that. The baseball this year is going to be really interesting. I know that you stated that your fandom's never been less. My fandom's never been higher. And
really?
It's so odd. It's so odd because it's the most confusing and interesting time, I think, as a Cardinals fan since, I guess, Tony La Russa was done being a Cardinal. There's just so much.
Because you think they're about to tear it down and rebuild?
So, okay, not to bring up a sore subject, but you remember when the Last Dance thing became the motto for the year and it was a little bit awkward kind of message being sent?
Yeah.
The Cardinals are doing that, but they keep changing the motto like every week. It started off being a rebuild, and then it was a retool, and then it was a reset, and now it's a transition year. And I think transition is the worst.
That's bad.
Motto, because what are we transitioning? And then a part of the transition motto is, well, this is the youth movement. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, youth movement's good.
Yeah, but the youth movement, okay, but if it's partnered with transition, does that mean we're transitioning away from all of our youth? Or I don't. So
the question would be, if they're transitioning, what are they going to identify as moving forward?
Well, it just depends on which pronouns they desire. I don't know yet. The problem is, this is all hinging on John Mozeliak moving on after this year. That's where all this is hinged upon.
And that's the plan, right? Is that this is his last year? He's going to hand it off?
Oh, that's a done deal. I mean, there's no going back. I think his contract's up and he's kind of done. And
on behalf of fans everywhere, is there any way he could stay for a while? Maybe Mike Matheny could come back and we could sort of, I don't have have a reboot.
Well, we may change the motto to that as well. Just depends. We'll see how the year goes. So the problem is, Neal, I don't know if you knew this. John Mozeliak's been with the Cardinals a long time, but he's the one, he drafted Ole Marmol, who's the manager now.
Yeah.
Ole played in the minors for like 5 years and then kind of washed out and then became like a bench coach in the minors and a pitching, just all kinds of stuff. And he worked his way up by promotion to becoming the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals. So the transition comes from, okay, we know John Mozeliak's gone. We're just going to assume that Chaim Bloom's going to fire Ole Marmol. And then now it's coming out, well, if he exceeds expectations, Chaim Bloom may keep him. And I'm like, the expectation is that no one gets hurt and maybe at best sneak into the last wild card spot. And if that's exceeding those expectations, then we're just going to be mediocre again for the next decade. Well, I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I think 3 NL Central teams are better than the Cardinals right now. I mean,
yeah,
the Brewers, the Reds, the Cubs are all, I think, let me rephrase that. Those 3 teams should be better than the Cardinals this year. And then you could talk me into the Pirates depending on how some of their young players play and what kind of a step Skeens makes.
Yeah, and I think that's a reasonable take. I mean, in my little MLB standings projections, which I really just like to do to get baseball talk on the board, I picked the Brewers to win the division, but if you told me the Cubs win it or the Reds win it, I'm not shocked. And if you told me the Cardinals win it, that means the Cubs, Brewers, and Reds had a very disappointing season. I think that's the only.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. You could talk me into the Cubs winning it if the pitching stays healthy. The lineup, I think, will be good enough. The Reds, it's the opposite. If they find some pitching, I think their lineup is really good. I think Milwaukee, of all the teams in the Central, has the best organization. I think they do the best job of player procurement as in terms of young players. I think they do a really good job of player development, player identification. They just always seem to they lose guys, and you're like, okay, that guy's going to be really hard to replace, and then they replace him. I'm with you. I'm picking the Brewers to win because I think they deserve the benefit of the doubt. But if you told me the Cardinals won, I would be like, whoa, those three teams really underachieved, like injuries and bad things.
It would mean that the Cardinals hitting really improved going into the year, and it would mean that, I mean, like I stated, those three teams had a down year in some. I mean, because I think the peak of the Cardinals this year is 87 wins, and if 87 wins wins you a division, there was more to the story than just the Cardinals winning 87 games.
Oh, I think so, the Cardinals 87 wins right now, and they didn't take it. I would question their sanity.
Oh, well, because then you're talking about taking that last wild card spot, which if you're a Cardinals fan, and knowing that no matter what, John Moselek's gone and probably Ollie Marmol's gone, you take that in a heartbeat because there's no repercussions of being good this year, I guess you could say. Hey, that guy in the Lakers uniform doesn't look too fat to me.
It was. Did you watch any of that the other night? He was so motivated. He's going to kill them. I mean, if you're Dallas and you're going to move Luka Doncic, you have to move him to the East. You can't move him someplace where you play him in a playoff series. He's just not going to lose to them. It's. I know it's broken record, but the more I read and the more I hear and think, I just keep thinking. I know there's a logical explanation that's just, hey, a ownership group got talked into this by a relatively new GM, but man, it feels like it's more sinister than that.
Well, and I keep seeing theories, and that's fine. I just don't believe the whole real estate thing and the moving the team thing. I just don't believe it. I think it's plain as simple as they just didn't like him for some reason.
Well, I do think the story that came out most recently about the beer drinking and the hookah smoking that he likes to do, that they were very worried about his lifestyle, that it's going to catch up to him in his late 20s, early 30s, that he wasn't going to be the player that it was going to become an albatross of a contract. That being said, 25, and I mean, you're telling me that Luka is going to fall apart before 30? I don't buy it. If you told me Luka's not a great player at 35 because he doesn't take care of his body maybe the way that, a LeBron James does, that kind of thing, okay, sure. Yeah, I'll buy that. But then, even then, I'm like, I don't know. I got a feeling Luka Doncic at 33, at 34 is still going to be an elite NBA player. I mean, I was looking at The Ringer did. I'll find it real quick. The Ringer did a story today, ranking the NBA.
Well, let me interrupt you while you look.
It's got Luka at. So they ranked the top, in their opinion, 100 NBA players. All right. So they've got Nikola Jokic at number 1. Can't argue that. Got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Thunder, at number 2. Can't argue that. Giannis Antetokounmpo of Milwaukee at 3. Again, I can't argue that. Jason Tatum of the Celtics at number 4. That's probably right. They've Luka at number 5. I mean, so, and I think you could argue that you could put Luka above both Giannis and Tatum. I mean, you're getting into arguments, and you could argue that he belongs where he belongs, but they've got Luka at 5. And then this is the point. The next few guys are older. Steph Curry at 6, LeBron at 7, Donovan Mitchell at 8, Anthony Edwards at 9, and then Victor Wembanyama at 10. I mean, of all of those guys, I mean, the only people that you would consider building your franchise around over Luka today, in my opinion, are Jokic and maybe SGA. I would pick Luka to build my franchise over Tatum and Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Well, so the argument about his body and drinking and hookah and all that, that's a legitimate argument, but it sounds really hypocritical when you trade him for Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hypocritical type of state. I mean,
and see, I'll get to Davis. They've got Kevin Durant at 11, Anthony Davis at 12. And then the three guys after Davis, they've got Jalen Brunson of the Knicks, Karl Anthony Towns of the Knicks, Devin Booker, Phoenix. I'll go 16 through 20 because I'll make my point here. Evan Mobley of Cleveland is 16. Cade Cunningham of Detroit, 17. Jaylen Brown with the Celtics is 18. Tyrese Halliburton, the Pacers, is 19. Domantas Sabonis of Sacramento is 20. Of those guys below him at 12, I'll be honest, I'd rather have Cat. I'd much rather have Mobley. I think they've got him bad underrated. I'd much rather have Cade Cunningham. You could talk me into Halliburton. And the one thing I'm going to get out of Sabonis, as opposed to Anthony Davis, he's not as good of a player, but he's far more dependable.
Yeah. Well, and Anthony Davis was putting up phenomenal numbers the last 2 years, but the history is still the history, and the history says that he has injury problems. So, in my mind, if history repeats itself and he hasn't been injured in a while, that would tell me that he's probably about to get injured.
Well, he's hurt right now. He's not on the court right now.
Yeah,
he's got an abdominal injury that he's out a month. And so when he comes back, he's not going to be in game shape. I mean, I don't view Dallas as a threat in the West right now.
No.
I mean, I'll be honest. I view Golden State as a threat in the West. I think the Lakers are becoming a threat in the West. I think the Warriors. I said the Warriors. The Warriors are a threat. Minnesota has looked good recently. I don't view Dallas as a threat. I don't really understand what Dallas did, honestly.
There's a chance the second round of the Western Conference playoffs is the best series of games this year. I mean,
there's a chance.
Because there's a scenario where the second round is like the Nuggets, maybe the Nuggets, Clippers, the Lakers, Thunder. I don't know. There's a scenario where all that kind of happens, which is phenomenal. But on that list that you just stated, what are the odds that over the next 5 years, Luka is still a top 5 player? And what are the odds that Anthony Davis is even still the 12th best player in 5 years?
Well, Davis won't be a top 12 player. And the odds of Luka being a top 5 player in 5 years are at least coin tossy.
Yeah, it blows my mind. But, the other night, Luka, and sometimes in life, and this, I guess, applies in this scenario, let's say that Luka did have some lifestyle issues. Sometimes in life, it just takes a breakup to really look yourself in the mirror to fix everything.
Well, look, it's professional athletes with millions of dollars. A lot of them have lifestyle issues. Let's be real. That's a cop.
Yeah.
That's a cop out.
Hey, my guy in Memphis has had lifestyle issues. We didn't trade him, and even though he doesn't play as much as I wish he would, he's done pretty well the last 18 months. We're
talking about young men with millions of dollars. Yeah, there's going to be stuff.
I know young men that don't have millions of dollars that have stuff.
Yeah, but if they have millions, you understand my point. There's going to be stuff. I'm not saying they're all going to be bad people. I'm not saying that at all. But they're all going to be surrounded by temptation.
Yeah. I don't really get it. The more I know that I talk about it every week, but the more that time goes on, the worse it looks. Especially now when the Lakers look like they could make the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah,
I mean,
I kind of agree with Grind here. He says it's between Thunder, Lakers, and Nuggets.
100%.
I think I
And
agree with that. The only other team that I don't know. I'm not ready to just count out the Clippers if everybody. I don't think 4 games against those teams, and I do wonder a little bit. I do wonder a little bit about the Warriors just because I know they hadn't played anybody, but they've been pretty good since the trade.
well, and my favorite narrative, and it's true because it's only attacking one angle about the Lakers not having another big. That's absolutely true. I can't argue against that. And I'm not even a Lakers fan, but if you look up the height and weight of their guards and their forwards, they are so big on the perimeter. In today's game, if you can stop the 3-point shot, you'll have a chance in every game. And since I think the last 17 games, they're second in defensive rating just behind the Thunder. And that every single one of those games is without Anthony Davis. And that's where I think in the playoffs, when the game really, really slows down and, Luka can create his own shot. And what's happened now, if you watch, and I don't know how much you've been able to watch them, but what's happening now is LeBron only goes through like 10-minute spurts through the whole game where he's really, really aggressive. He's on the court for 30 to 35 minutes, but he's only really pushing for about 10 minutes in the whole game, and that makes him younger.
Yeah.
And so what the Lakers have done, it's amazing. They've built for the future and made the 40-year-old young again for parts of the game. And, that's all you could really ask for. I don't really know what else, if you're a Lakers fan, you could ask for.
No, well, it's as good as they could have possibly asked for.
Yeah, and I asked you in the mailbag, I think, the Lakers, even though their record was the same for a while as last year's record, you could watch them and clearly tell they were better than last year's team. And I think all the overreaction to J.J. Redick being hired because of LeBron, I think that was really proven not to be true pretty quickly. He's an amazing coach.
Yeah, he's an elite basketball mind. If you ever listened, I don't know if you ever listened to it, his show that he did with LeBron, and then his 3, the old and the 3 or whatever, that was a really smart basketball show. And
yeah.
players respected him. You knew players would accept him as the coach. They would accept his coaching. You knew that he would know when it was. He knew how to handle stars. He played with stars. He knew when to defer to stars, when to challenge stars. LeBron respects him. There's a lot there. Like, that was a pretty damn good hire.
Yeah, and he's it's the modern Jason Kidd hire.
Yeah.
I think Redick may be potentially better at his peak than Jason Kidd, but it was very similar. Jason Kidd was a player, and transitioned pretty quickly into a coach. So I don't know. I think the Lakers, Nuggets, and Thunder, as Grind said, I think if you told me one of those 3 teams made the finals, or I would say it like this: if you gave me those 3 teams to make the finals or the field, I'm taking those 3 teams because.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's no doubt in my mind that the Western Conference Final is going to be between 2 of those 3 teams. So.
Yeah, I'm going to see Denver and Oklahoma City in person next Sunday. I'm pretty excited about it. Kind of looking forward to it. Oklahoma City's experimenting right now. People don't realize that that's what's happening because there's this mad rush of people we have to judge a team and go, that's it, we're done. And
yeah,
that, and the Thunder have a big lead. They're going to be the 1 seed, and so unless you believe emphatically that the Thunder have a sure thing to the Western to win the West, I don't. But you have to, unless you believe that, and that Cleveland is absolutely going to win the East. The Thunder have 20-something games to experiment with, and they would be foolish unless you believe both of those 2 things. They would be foolish not to use those games to experiment. Like, they're using the 2 bigs to start games. Then they're going small. Last night against Brooklyn, they played some of their closing minutes without SGA. They won't do that in the playoffs, but Daignault is experimenting, and it's wild to watch the reaction from media. Like they don't understand that, even though in press conferences he basically says it. He tells everybody exactly what it is that they're trying to do, that they're trying to get as much information as possible about their team before they get to the playoffs, because when you get to the playoffs, there's no experimenting anymore. You're just trying to win.
Well, Neal, you know this. When coaches tell the truth, no one listens. But when they lie, everybody says this is what they said.
There's so much truth to that. I mean, he's told the truth. He's like, yeah, right now the lineups with Holmgren and Hartenstein are awkward. They don't know how to play together. And Chet's never been the 4 before. And so he's learning how to be the 4 while also kind of playing his way back into shape and all of those things. But
well, I mean, that's like a part of the conversation. The Grizzlies can't really experiment, I mean, sadly, because they don't know who. I mean, it's been better recently, but no one knows who's going to be healthy or who we have going to be able to play every night. But, I mean, J.J. Redick came out with a 10-man rotation, and he said this is it for the rest of the year. And people were like, I saw comments like, well, that's because it's all he's got. And I think the response to that would be, no, I mean, it's working. I mean, I don't know why you would change something, especially when you have a 10-man rotation, because when playoffs start, unless you're just really, really deep, you're not playing 12 to 15 guys. I mean, you're playing 8 to 10.
Yeah, you're playing. That's the Thunder right now are playing 10, maybe 11, and when the playoffs roll around, they're going to cut that down to 9, realistically.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. The rest of the year will be fun, but I think this to change the subject, I think this Ole Miss baseball team has a chance to be pretty decent. I know it's early, but I mean, their body language is a lot better than last year's team. And
yeah, I haven't watched yet. I have my thing with college baseball is when SEC play rolls around, I'll put multiple games on screens and start watching. But right now, I just assume that all SEC teams are going to beat the hell out of everybody else, and I just wait.
Yeah. Hey, I promise this, Neal, that SEC baseball at the end of the year will have an even conference record.
Yes, that is locked in stone.
I mean,
yeah, I agree completely. They're not going to be good enough to be above 500 in league play,
right,
and they're not going to be bad enough to be below 500. I think they're going to end up being right at 500. Hey, you want to know? You want to hear a crazy? I think at the end of the season, Major League Baseball is going to be a 500 sport.
100%. And guess who else will be a 500 team? The St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh, you think they go 81 and 81?
I give them like a 3-game swing, but that's probably the number. And if that's the case, next year's pretty exciting because, I mean, you're looking around the roster of a lot of 22 to 26-year-olds, and, eventually they got to take the step or it is time to rebuild and trade everybody. But anyway, I see Grun's comment in the stream about the Spurs. Could they get Cooper Flagg? I mean, technically they could. That would be insane, and I don't really know the odds of that, but I think it's technically possible.
Yeah, it's technically possible. It's kind of the way that the draft lottery works. It's like they have like a 12% chance, which is
hey. I mean, I've seen crazier things. Ping pong balls.
I mean, if you believe that the NBA is, I don't know. I'm not going to say they fixed the draft, but sometimes it feels like the draft is fixed.
I wish they would get rid of the whole lottery thing. I know it's to prevent tanking, but I mean, it would be so much.
It's kind of fun. I mean, during the Thunder rebuild, the whole lottery thing and hitting the tankathon thing was a lot of fun. I mean, the Thunder could have the 7th pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Get my boy Trey Johnson. That's all we need is another 6'6" wing who can shoot it. We're good.
Hey, I haven't listened to any podcast today, Did you watch his game last night?
Yeah. I watched. I had Kentucky, Oklahoma on one screen, and then Arkansas, Texas on the other. And Trey Johnson was awesome. He was awesome. I mean, otherwise, look, Arkansas had a really good plan, and they played well. And if Johnson's just an average player last night, Arkansas wins that game by 10, 11 points. And with Johnson, Texas damn near won it. I mean, it was wild. He was awesome. He was.
And I don't know how they haven't won more, because he willed them to just stay in the game. I mean,
yeah, they don't have a lot else. They have a really good looking team, but they're not particularly skilled. He's the guy that can make things happen. And Terry found it took him way too long to find it, where they kind of isolated him at the elbow and they ran him around a couple of curls and he created. They waited way too long to do that. They let that game be a jump shot game for a while. And to Arkansas's credit, they shot the ball pretty well and they were a man down, and I thought Calipari out coached Terry last night.
I mean, it was insane. It looked like watching. I mean, it's a bad comparison. It looked like watching Kobe drag those bad teams to the playoffs, and LeBron dragging that first stint Cleveland team. I mean, he was willing them to just a chance to win the game. I mean, it was impressive. What have like 40?
He had 39. He was awesome. Yeah, he's terrific. 6'6" wing. Yeah, he'll be a top 10 pick. He's kind of my Thunder target. He's my hope.
Yeah, that's what we need. That's really what we need.
Need another 6'6". Need another Aaron Wiggins just to step in, be another weapon. That's what we need. Got Case and Wallace, Lou Dort, Caruso, Wiggins. Add Trey Johnson. I think it's more than fair. More than fair. Hey, thanks for the call, people. I appreciate you.
Hey, thanks, Neal. Good Cardinals. Bye.
All right. Appreciate the call from Tupelo. That was a lot of fun. Grind wants to know, is this the year the Reds can win? Yeah, the Reds can win the division for sure. I think they're one of 3 teams. Corey, welcome into the show. How are you, sir?
Good. What's going on?
Man, just wrapping up a week, getting ready for a weekend, watching the underwear Olympics on the screen. Texas.
I forgot that was today.
Texas A&M defensive lineman just ran. Now a Texas lineman's about to do the little cone drill where he goes around the things and touches the.
When's the art stuff start? Has it already started?
No, I think quarterback starts Saturday. Today's defensive
lineman.
Okay.
Okay. We have a few of them.
What's up with you?
Nothing. What's everybody talking about?
Well, Tupelo just called in. He's our first caller here the last couple of weeks. It's become tradition. We talked Cardinals baseball.
NBA.
Talked some NBA. We're excited. I've got a basketball crush right now on Trey Johnson, the Texas wing. After last night, he went for 39 at Arkansas. The game.
Yeah, I heard that on the earlier podcast.
Yeah,
I can feel it.
I got some feelings. He's right in the thunder, right in the Thunder's wheelhouse.
Your pick prediction was the high, and Jeffrey was the sarcastic. Proud of you for being able to do that. They were equal in terms of weight both ways.
You know, we've accumulated all these picks. We're going to have to use them, and if that means that we draft 6'6" wings who can do kind of everything, then that's just what it means. You know, it is what it is.
Did you see the post on the message board about the snail?
I did. All right, so let's talk about this. So here's one of the questions. I solicited questions just in case there were no calls. Let me find it. All right. The punter 87 says you will receive $10 million. In exchange, an invisible snail will chase you for the rest of your life. The snail moves at snail speed. You will not know and never know where the snail is. It could start in Arkansas or China. The snail can travel across water, but must wait for others to open doors or windows. The snail can only move through snail movements. Are you taking the money? Now,
So
here's
what's
the
your
question. Here's the first question I had is if the snail gets you, you're dead, I presume, right?
Yes, yeah, I thought that too. I mean, just touches you, you die. He didn't have to kill you like a snail would kill you. Just touches you, you're dead.
Right.
So we had this long discussion today about this.
So here's the one negative. Like the initial thought is, yeah, I'll take my chances. The one negative is that you live your entire life in total fear of this invisible thing.
That was my take. That was that. You know, I put up, me and Alan and Kobe, we had different takes on this. Now there's, you know Alan.
Yeah,
so
I know Alan.
He says, "Is the snail intelligent?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And he said, "Would the snail know where I would likely be if I had $10 million?" But you know what I mean, like because that matters. If the snails, but I think he was talking about, you know, being in Vegas, you know, at the at Caesar's Palace. Like, would he? I originally thought, I'm just going to do it, and then I'll just get in my vehicle every night and go to a hotel 30 miles away. But you could be going to where the snail is,
right,
at that hotel room.
Right.
So then I said I couldn't do it. I don't have the temperament to not be looking over my shoulder.
I don't
Alan
would ever be able to enjoy the $10 million.
I wouldn't either. Alan says that he could drop from a brain aneurysm in my office right now, so why wouldn't I? He said, my last word may be snail, but I would take the $10 million.
All right, Grind has a good question. Grind has a good question, Corey. He says, would the snail still leave a snail trail? If so, I just live on the beach and put a little sand around my feet and check for sand movement.
That's cool.
That's a good,
that is good.
That's
good. Yeah. I don't know.
I did think I would go to the beach because if it's going to move like a snail, it's going to have a hard time like in sand.
Yeah. I would be too paranoid. I wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't be able to do it.
So,
I would not.
So our answer, if you think about it, if you get into the spirituality of our answer, is that both you and I, two people who really like money, are admitting that there are things more important than money.
Yeah. But you know, and then another salesman piped up and he said, I wouldn't do it, and then I'd leave here in a minute, and a damn bus would hit me right in front of the dealership. You know what I mean? So there's a.
Well, there's truth to that.
Yeah.
There's truth to that.
Yep, that's right. But excited about what we got going on coming up on the board. I know this is the network, but
yeah. So tell the people what we're going to be doing at Rebel Grove.
All right. So once a week, I'm gonna take something that I really need to sell. Like it's you know, it's just something that we are to the point where I need to just let it go. And I'm going to mark it way down. We're going to post pictures. We're going to post links. We're going to post all kinds of different, you know, here's this. We'll even post the warts. Like if it has a quarter size ding above the passenger side fender with a dime size paint mark, I'll take a good picture of that and just say, here it is. And, you know, you may be looking for something that, you know, I'm thinking people that need, you know, work cars or need something for their kid or things like that. I'm not talking about brand new vehicles. Pretty much everybody can discount the same vehicle, the same exact amount of money. I'm thinking about stuff that I need to turn. I need to, you know, we've had this thing for 3 months for whatever reason, and it needs to go. And we're going to start posting those hopefully once a week. Probably have them come out on Monday, and they won't be priced anywhere else for what they will be priced at on Rebel Grove. And so that's the idea anyway.
So we're going to post this every Monday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
looking forward to it. It'd be kind of interesting.
Just to see what happens and go from there. But yeah, not you know, I mean, I can go to the auction and buy 3 Ford Escapes, and I can buy a silver, white, and gray, and the silver sells the first week, the gray sells the third week, and the white one is there, and they're the exact same vehicles, but the other people just preferred the other. And you look up, and you've had it for 6 months, and it at that point, it's not about what I paid for something. It's about what something's worth. So we'll price accordingly and try to turn the metal into money and move on with life.
What you got planned for the weekend? You coming this way?
Yes, I'm coming. I was not nervous about this game at all, and then today on the podcast, the bigness of the game now has been drilled into my brain, and
it feels big to me. It really not to make the tournament. They're making the tournament. I've had people today trying to tell me they're not going to make the tournament. They're making the tournament. They've got 8 wins.
Yeah, and I kind of thought about that too. I was like, look, when they get in the room, I mean, you can't ignore Louisville, Bama, Kentucky, BYU. You can't ignore what happened.
They're making the tournament, but you don't want to. I mean, it's one thing to limp into the tournament. If they were to lose to Oklahoma and then lose next week to Tennessee and Florida, and look, you can play well and lose to those teams. And then,
right,
you get to, I don't know, Wednesday or Thursday in Nashville, and you lose your first game there. And it's obviously it's a loaded tournament.
That's 7.
People
That's
going to
7 in a row.
Yeah, losing 7 in a row as you get into the NCAA tournament isn't limping. That's crawling on broken glass with a broken leg that you're dragging.
The other thing I thought about that I haven't finished the podcast this morning, so I may be y'all may have brought this up, but if Ole Miss is 8-10 and they end up having to play Wednesday night, they are going to be seated where they're playing a team, be it South Carolina or LSU, that has one path to get to the tournament.
Yeah.
Period. And so, if they get the bye, that'll be great. But if they end up playing on Wednesday, I assume they would be one of the higher seeds playing Wednesday, playing one of the lower seeds.
Yeah.
And one of those 2 lower seeds, the only way they can, so they're going to be motivated. They're going to rah 5 games, 5 days. They're going to be motivated. So I thought about that, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But I was in attendance I was not in attendance for Kentucky, but I was in attendance for A&M. I was in attendance for Auburn. I was in attendance. What was the last home game?
Mississippi State.
Yes, I was in attendance for that. So I think the last 3, there's probably going to be people calling for me to not go, but I think the last 3 home, I went to 3 of the last 4, and we lost all 3. Pretty sure. So, but I was there for Georgia, so there's that.
All right, well.
But anyway, we'll get started on it next week and see what happens and go from there.
All right, Corey. Thank you, man.
All right.
That was Corey Clark. That'll start on Monday at rebelgrove.com. I'll post that kind of a deal of the week. See how that I'm interested to see how that goes. 662-257-1900 is the number, by the way, for Clark Ford. All right, let's see. I'll get to some of these questions. You guys can call in. Prentice Reb says, obviously there's no way of knowing for sure yet. Season isn't over and a lot can change. But how serious do you expect the Beard Indiana talks to get? I mean, here's my honest answer that's not a cop-out. It's the truth. I've heard different things. I don't know. I've heard that there is a feeling there that some of the things in Beard's past, fairly or not, would make him less attractive at Indiana than others. Some of it might depend on, who else they feel like they could get, who uses that job as leverage. I don't know whether Chris Beard would want that job. I don't know. I mean, the people that talk in absolutes about this, I'm very skeptical. I have a feeling they're just kind of making things up. And in a world where Ole Miss limps into the tournament and loses quickly, is he still as attractive? Again, I don't know. I'll try to talk to some Indiana people over the next couple of weeks and get a feel for it. But as of today, I don't get the sense that there's a general feeling that that's a great fit. could be wrong. Part two, if it were to come to that, do you think the administration would have the appetite to hire McNeese's Will Wade? Yes, I do. Pretty sure of it, in fact. I mean, look, if you're Ole Miss, you hired Lane Kiffin a few years ago, and people scoffed at you. It worked. You hired Chris Beard, and there was a fear that, if you hire Chris Beard, that the media reaction is going to be so incredibly nasty. It's going to just be overwhelming. It wasn't. There were 2 or 3 articles that got written predictably right around those first few days. And then it went away completely. He's been successful at Ole Miss. The story's never really come up. I suspect, and I could be wrong, I'm on record as saying I don't really like a lot of things that happen in journalism these days, but I suspect that when Ole Miss makes the tournament, this will be their first tournament appearance under Chris Beard. It'll be Chris Beard's first return to the tournament since the incident in Austin. I suspect that someone in the national media will bring it up and give it some form of play. I don't think it'll be a big deal, and I think it'll pass fast. So in a world where Chris Beard left, you've already seen that the media cycle goes so fast that, yeah, would you get some criticism for hiring Will Wade? I mean, I guess a little, but it wouldn't. I mean, who cares? What difference does it make? It would pass really fast, and he would make a ton of sense. He's won big at McNeese. They appear headed towards the tournament again. He's got SEC experience from his time at LSU. He wants the job. He wanted it 2 years ago. He would want it now. Yeah, if I'm Ole Miss, my list begins and ends with Will Wade, and I think he would take it if you offered it to him, assuming that you offered to him first. So yeah, but I don't know about the Chris Beard part. I really don't. And the people that do, I'm pretty skeptical. Dallas Reb 972 asks, do you believe? Let's make sure that wasn't work. Okay, never mind. He says, do you believe people find their purpose or create it? Do you feel like you found your purpose, or are you still in the process of creating it? That's deep. I think you end up. Hey, caller, who do we have? Hey, caller.
Hey, Neal, it's Austin.
All right, Austin, you get to help me answer this.
Go right ahead.
Do you believe people find their purpose or create it? Do you feel like you found your purpose, or do you feel like you're still in the process of creating it?
See, I love questions like this. I could honestly go either way on that. I think to a degree, you'll find your purpose, like through what gets thrown at you in life. I feel like we just naturally kind of come to that, point in our life. But that being said, I do think there's things you can do in your life to help create your purpose. Without getting long-winded, I could go on stories. That's just how I feel. What about you?
Yeah, I think you create your purpose. I think you sort of grow into or evolve into finding what it is that you're supposed to do, that you're good at, and that is fulfilling to you, and that makes you feel like you're being true to yourself. Like, I spent the majority of my adult years, my goal was to get to the Washington Post or the New York Times or the Los Angeles Times or the Dallas Morning News or those types of outlets, to be on ESPN or whatnot. And the older I get, the more I think I begin to realize that I would have been miserable. I wouldn't have liked it. I wouldn't have fit. It wasn't me. And don't get me wrong, when I say this, I'm not saying that my voice matters at all. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying I kind of feel like I have kind of found my voice a little bit, things that matter to me, and I have found like a place where I am able to sort of express what's important to me in a way that I'm not afraid of what other people think. And I have found that at times that resonates with other people. And I don't think I would have ever been able to do that on a big national stage. I think people would have been more of the stick to sports thing. Like, not to get into this story that's because I don't think it's a story. It really this story with the girl really bothers me. Not because it's none of my business. I hate that their privacy was invaded the way that it was. But I have watched the national media. When I say national media, I mean the kind of the people that are sort of in the space that I'm in, but with bigger platforms. They've taken this and run with it, which I think just taking it and running with it is wrong. But the direction in which they've run with it has made me realize I just wouldn't fit in that space. Because
it's all about hot takes and clickbait, and it's all about, forget content.
It's the bro culture of it, right? It's this, hey, like the whole would, all that stuff. I'm like, really? Because are you hearing yourself? And yet I think if I said that on a big national platform, people would say, oh, you're old man yelling at clouds. And I don't think that. I'm not that old. I'm not yelling at clouds. I think I'm speaking objective, honest opinion and truth here. And yet that's not really all that accepted. Does that make sense? And so I think maybe that's, what's the word, purpose? Do you find maybe that's my purpose, is to be one of the people who pushes back against sort of this mainstream thought?
Well, I'll give you. I'll just be transparent here. I mean, it's part of the reason why I gravitated to MPW in the first place was the authenticity of it. I mean, that's just the truth. I like the fact that, we can talk about stuff with context, and it's not clickbaity. It's not, I'm not trying to suck up to you or anything, but like, I love listening to it because y'all provide content that's genuine. It's authentic, and it's not, how do I say this nicely? It's not like other networks or other places where you can clearly tell there's an agenda, and you guys are mainly just, everything you talk about, you give context to. And and I think this, not to be long-winded, but this story that happened today, this week, obviously is sad and it's terrible, but it's all over YouTube and it's all over Twitter right now because it's the hot thing to talk about. It's gossip. It's cool.
But there aren't enough people, in my opinion, that look at that story. And again, I don't know what's true and what isn't, and honestly, don't want to know.
Me too.
But in a world where hypothetically that's true, the people that are talking about this older man like he's some sort of a legend or a hero, they make me sick. No.
Yeah.
In a world where this is true, he's a predator.
I agree.
And in a world where this is true and that's his son,
yeah,
it's beyond evil.
I'm right there with
There's
you.
not a word for it. And the fact that people can sit around a stage on ESPN under the context of talking about the NFL draft and somehow use the fact that Ole Miss has guys in the draft as a reason, as a pretext to bring this story up and then giggle about it is unbelievable to me. I mean, really, there's a total lack of decency.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, it just shows you the state of modern mainstream media, not just in sports, it's all clickbait. It's all clickbait.
Totally. 1,000,000%. And so you watch, I'll name him, like Crane, whatever his name is. He only does it because he sees other people do it. He sees other people do it and go, I've got to get in this space. I'm like, okay, well, but are you going to be authentic? Are you going to, is that really what you think? You think this guy's again, I don't know what's true. I don't want to know. I pray for all parties that this was some scam and that they sue and they find out. I hope that's true. I really do. I hope they get, I hope it's that. I don't know. I don't want to know. I really don't. It's none of my business. But in a world where it is, and I'm not saying it is, I don't know. I don't know how much clearer I can say I don't know. I'm not talking to you, by the way. I'm just in general putting it out there. I don't know. I don't know. But in a world where it is, this guy's the furthest thing in the world from a hero.
For sure.
The furthest thing in the world from a hero.
And I'm not disagreeing with you. I feel the same way.
Yeah. I mean, I have an 18-year-old son. I see girls his age. I'm 55. In a world where I got one of them drunk and did that, I'm a predator. Whether you want to say, well, legally, no, I don't care about legally. I'm not about legally. By any judgment, I would hope people would view me as a predator in that world, because there's no other word for it. There's no other word for it.
Ethically wrong.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, ethically, morally, spiritually, chemically, everything wrong. Wrong. I mean, just so wrong. And then you factor in that girl's, no. It just makes me kind of ill, really. I mean, my reaction, I've lost respect for a handful of people in the media space. And I mean, I'm on record. I'm not a big media fan. It's not my favorite people. But I've lost a lot of respect for a handful of people this week. And I don't know that I can get it back. I think it's kind of done. People I really don't care to ever speak to again.
I completely understand. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It's getting to the point in mainstream. It's not even mainstream media. I mean, it's even starting to get closer to home in some instances where I just kind of tune it out. Like, I can't take these people seriously sometimes anymore. It's part of the reason why me and so many others like streams like you guys. I mean, not just you guys, but like you guys, where, it's genuine, it's authenticity. It shows people gravitate to authenticity. And so much of mainstream media, and it's part of the reason why I called. I was going to ask the question. Sure. I was gonna talk about authenticity in like media, and I wanted to talk about something that y'all mentioned on the show this morning about baseball and ESPN severing the relationship with each other. And it comes back to authenticity to me, because ESPN, and I know it's mainly on baseball, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, first off, inform me again, who pulled out of the deal mainly? Was it baseball or ESPN?
It depends on who you believe.
Got you.
It kind of sounds like ESPN pulled out of the deal and Major League Baseball was like, well, we were going to break up with you too. It's kind of like your girlfriend calls you and breaks up. You were already thinking about breaking up. So you go, okay, cool. And then when your friends say who broke up with who, you say, oh, I broke up with her.
I understand. And now that you say it like that, it makes a lot of sense, because I wasn't sure who to believe in this whole story. But the reason why I'm tying it into what we talked about earlier is I just think, and a few weeks ago when I called, I asked you a question about the SEC's media deal with ESPN. And I just think that ESPN, and this is the question I'm going to pose to you in a minute, is it possible for ESPN to gain or regain the appeal or trust, or I don't even know what the word I'm trying to find is, but the respect of a lot of us just genuine casual sports fans? Like, I'm an Ole Miss fan. Mm-hmm. I love all sports, and I can legitimately not say the last time I watched ESPN for anything that didn't involve one of my teams playing on it, because they just lost all credibility with me. And today, I think with the whole baseball thing, I saw stats. ESPN is paying $2 billion a year for Monday Night Football, $1 billion a year for the college football playoff, and they're paying like nearly $3 billion for a third of the NBA, and they can't find a way to make something work for baseball. To me, that just, like, say what you want to say about baseball. It's had its day, and it's not exactly the most relevant thing in the world right now. But
yeah, but when I was a kid, I mean, I know this is a long time ago. I'm old as hell, but when I was a kid, baseball was incredibly mainstream. So it's very difficult for me to see. And I know baseball's super healthy at a regional level, but I don't like. You tell me how many. Not trying to derail where you're going, because I think I understand what you're saying. How many Major League Baseball players today would you say are mainstream? Like everyone generally knows who they are.
Gosh, I can only think of maybe 2, and I said maybe.
Yeah, and so people can debate NBA ratings and whatnot till we're blue in the face, and why, and did they overdo it in 2020? The answer is yes. All of that stuff. But if I say to you, how many NBA players are mainstream? I mean, it's a bunch.
Yeah, you can at least think of at least 5 off the top of your head.
Yeah, and if I say how many NFL players are mainstream, God, it's what, 20 minimum?
Sure, for sure. Heck, you can do that with college football.
Yeah, and that's even before you even get to college football, where, like, going in the next season, like Arch Manning, not to bring up a bad topic around Ole Miss people, but Arch Manning's a super mainstream name next year.
For sure.
Probably more. Arch Manning, who's what started one game at Texas, is a more mainstream name going into next season than maybe any Major League Baseball player, with the possible exception of Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, for sure.
Think about
that. I would actually love to know that comparison. If there was a way you could compare that, who knows these guys more? Like, more mainstream.
As opposed
I would love to know.
Yeah, I would too. As opposed to, like, with the NFL, for example, Dak Prescott, who's a middle of the pack NFL quarterback. Now, he does play for a very high profile team, but an NFL, middle of the pack NFL quarterback, hasn't won a Super Bowl, hasn't played in a Super Bowl. I'm not doing the Mississippi State thing. He's just the name that came to mind.
Right.
He's a much higher profile national name, Q rating guy than any Major League Baseball player. I mean, maybe I'm just trying to give benefit of the doubt. Maybe Aaron Judge, maybe Mookie Betts, maybe Freddie Freeman. Maybe
you could even say even like a Derek Carr, like, really, like you could even take Dak Prescott out of it. Like,
yeah,
I guarantee that people that are familiar with Derek Carr than Shohei Ohtani.
Matthew Stafford.
Same.
Joe Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
I
mean, Jalen Hurts. I mean, it goes down the list.
Jalen Hurts, Travis Kelce, obviously, Patrick Mahomes, obviously.
If you went up to
Saquon Barkley, maybe AJ Brown on the heels of the Super Bowl. That game is so heavily viewed. Yeah, I mean, the list just kind of goes on, and it's what's interesting with baseball. So if you're ESPN, because Jeffrey's probably right about the NFL Network kind of getting out of the business, and ESPN's going to take over as the face of the NFL. They do NFL content all day, every day. Look at them. I mean, they've got the combine on today. I mean, we all sit and watch the combine like it's a sport, and it's just a bunch of dudes running 40s today. I mean, I know it's important for the draft. I get that it's important. Like, if you're the Indianapolis Colts or if you're the Seattle Seahawks, it's important to know you're thinking about drafting Walter Nolan. You need to know everything about Walter Nolan. You need to know everything that he can do physically, all that stuff. But that's not really scintillating TV. And yet they build tons of content around it. And this will lead into pro days. I've been to pro days. Pro days are the most boring thing in the world. If you're just watching a pro day, it's horrible. Now, I get it if you work for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not horrible. Not boring. Fascinating. You're learning about these dudes at Ole Miss, and the next day you're going to Tuscaloosa, or whatever, right? You get my point. But if you're just there watching dudes run in essentially their underwear, it's not all that entertaining. It's nothing. And yet ESPN's turned that and to their credit, they've turned that into very marketable content. And they stick with the NBA because the NBA kind of has this soap opera aspect to it, where Draymond Green interviews Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant tells him why he didn't accept the trade to Golden State and all that, and they turn that into talk. For whatever reason, baseball just doesn't resonate in that way. And so ESPN said, screw it, we're out.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I won't belabor a point, but I will just add one thing to that, and I'll pose it to you in this question, and then I'll get off and keep listening to the show. But I wanted to say this. You know, ESPN has said for at least a year now that they want to be a streaming platform, which, by the way, the streaming app, like you said, it sucks. But it's so terrible. It is awful.
See, and we're at the time of the year now where because I do the morning show with Chase, and college baseball is a big subject for us. So I will start now having to go to that app and to get the college baseball games. Like if I'm going to watch A&M in Florida or whatever, I got to get it on the app. And you have to log out and log back in, and you just want to throw shit at the screen. I mean, it's so bad. But yeah, anyway, awful.
I swear to you, it freezes more than any streaming app I've ever had for live sports. Like it freezes all the time too. It's ridiculous. But anyway, the point I'm making is they've said they want to be a funnel for all sports fans, but ESPN has very, very, very publicly, just for lack of a better phrase, kind of given the middle finger to the modern sports fan. And they've basically said, hey, you know, we're going to talk about the same subjects because it's what, quote unquote, gets ratings, even though the ratings are in the toilet. I've never understood why, like, for example, it could be in the middle of October, in the middle of the playoff push for baseball, and the NBA season hasn't even started yet. We're in the middle of the NFL. We're in the middle of the NFL season, like the middle of October. I'm just using the middle of October as an example for my point. We're in the middle of October. The NFL season's cooking. Baseball's in the middle of their playoff push, and college football's in the middle of their season. Shows like First Take and shows like Sport. I don't even know what's on their network, to tell the truth, but shows like that, they will spend, no joke, there's data to back me up on this, an hour and 30 minutes of their 2-hour allotted program talking about the NBA, knowing all too well that the NBA does a fifth of what most football ratings do.
Yeah.
I've never understood that. And they've just basically, like, there's still a large portion of Americans who love baseball, and admittedly it's going down, but they're paying all these entities all this money, and they've really soured people on them as a network. As SEC fans, especially me as an Ole Miss fan, is there anything that ESPN can do to kind of win our love back, for lack of a better phrase? And with that, I'll let you answer, and I'll just kind of phase out. Hope you have a good rest of your night, man.
Thank you. Appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anything ESPN can do? I mean, yeah. I mean, they can go to more sports-oriented, highlight-oriented content. They're not doing that. I don't really know why that is. I mean, I'd have to be inside their meetings and look at their analytics and that kind of thing. I mean, I guess there's a reason that they pay the talking heads what they pay them to come on every morning and scream and yell and have all these opinions. I never watched that stuff. Like, I'm in the minority on this. I've never watched McAfee's show. So when people talked about it, my initial reaction was, wow, I can't believe a lot of people sit and watch that. But obviously people, it's just not something that appeals to me. And I find I will listen to a lot of their NBA content because I'm in the vast minority of people that like the NBA. But a lot of their NBA content is the same regurgitated drivel over and over and over and over. I mean, their fantasy at ESPN is a Warriors-Lakers Western Conference final, but anything other than that, their opinions on some of the other up-and-coming teams are so uninformed that it makes me wonder if they just have a model and they're going to either drive it into the ground or wait for cyclically for those topics to be the hot topics again. Hey, who we have? Is this Grind?
Yo, it's Grind.
What's up, Grind? How are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. Enjoying the show. I remember you used to say this years ago, and I think you always compliment Jeffrey about it. And you was like, man, I don't know how you're able to keep up with, that much sports and, just have so much background knowledge on all these different teams and these different sports. And I used to watch First Take and all those type of shows in college. Well, I'll probably say about 5 years ago or so, I stopped, man. Just because it's Lakers, Cowboys, Lakers, Cowboys, Lakers, Cowboys. My thing is just tell me that you don't give a damn. Just tell me that you just want to get paid. That you really don't. Don't really care about sports.
When this was revelatory to me,
just because you played sports doesn't mean that you have some breadth of knowledge and you're going to be great about talking about the game.
Well, this happened to me years ago when I was in Mobile, when I got promoted off the Auburn beat to covering the SEC as a whole. And I had other stuff too, like I had Saints coverage and I had stuff to do. But I realized over the course of week over week that I knew a lot about Alabama. I knew a lot about Auburn. I knew a lot about whatever one or two teams were dominating the league. And then, man, after that, like you just only have so much. You only have 24 hours in the day. You can only know so much. Like when I hear, I'm not turning this into the Thunder, I promise. But when I hear people talk about the Thunder, here's a team that has the second best record in the NBA. They have a commanding lead in the Western Conference, which includes Los Angeles and Golden State, and Dallas with all the Luka stuff. And they never talk about Aaron Wiggins ever. His name never comes up. They talk about Shea and they talk about Chet a little bit. And every once in a while they'll try to debate Jalen Williams. Santa Clara Jalen Williams, not Arkansas Jalen Williams. They never, ever mention Aaron Wiggins. Ever. And it tells me everything I need to know. Because one of the reasons the Thunder are dominating this year is because Aaron Wiggins is beginning to emerge as a star. He's beginning to play like a star. They gave him a really smart extension in the offseason, and he's having multiple nights now where he scores in the 20s. As a third wheel, as a fourth wheel, he's becoming a star. They never talk about him. They never talk about Isaiah Joe. They never talk about really Isaiah Hartenstein. They never really talk about Alex Caruso. At the beginning of the year, before he had the toe injury, A.J. Mitchell, the rookie, was really emerging as a secondary ball handler for them when Shea was out. His name never came up. And I'm like, it's okay to admit you don't watch. It's okay. Yeah. I say that.
That's like back in the day. No, go ahead, man.
I say all the time on the morning show, and it probably drives Chase crazy. He'll come in and say, hey, I guess we're going to talk about SEC basketball, and I'll tell him I didn't watch last night. And I'm not going to pretend that I watched. Like, there are nights that I watch. Last night, I watched a lot. I watched Ole Miss Auburn, and then I watched on two screens. I watched Kentucky, Oklahoma, and I watched Texas, Arkansas. And both of those games were electric. They were great, and they were fun. But there are plenty of nights. And earlier in the week, I watched a good bit of Florida, Georgia, and Athens. But there are plenty of nights that I don't watch. And so when I find it disingenuous when these talking heads get up every morning and it's like, oh, yes, I watched all of the games. No, you didn't. It's impossible.
No.
And so it's one of the things I love about Ryan Russillo is he'll pick an NBA game and watch it and talk about it. I'm like, okay, well, I know he watched it. And I know he knows a lot of NBA people. I know he has a basketball eye, if you will. And so when he talks about, hey, he watched Dallas and the Lakers and he starts diving into the game, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to learn something in this segment. nothing against Stephen A. or Skip or any of those people, but they're just screaming opinions to create content for the rest of the day. And to me, it's a turnoff.
But see, man, it can get like back in the day, like they would talk about like, and see, like when you were naming all those Thunder players, you're so right, because back in the day they would talk about how important a guy like Bruce Bowen or Michael Finley was to the Spurs.
Yeah,
it wouldn't just be Parker and Ginobili and Duncan. They would say, hey, no, he's this 3-and-D guy. Bruce Bowen, that's what's missing. And so it kind of feels like instead of like ESPN is turned into the place to where it's like, hey, you come here, you do your grocery shopping, you get your hair cut, you buy your sneakers, and it's like, you know what? People are like, no. I'm gonna go to the sneaker shop to buy my sneakers. I'm gonna go to the barber shop to get my haircut, and I'm gonna go to the grocery store to get my groceries.
That is such a good analogy, man. They are trying to be Walmart, and in so many ways, I think if you look at media, media is more niche and specific niche than ever before, and so. Mm-hmm. Like, as a Thunder fan, I'm using them again, and I apologize. As a Thunder fan, I'm going to get a lot more out of listening to Down the Dunk than I am ESPN. I'm going to listen to Andrew Schlecht and those guys. If I want to hear about the Cubs, I can listen to the podcast with Sahadev Sharma and Patrick Mooney, and I'm going to learn a whole lot more than I am listening to national talking heads. And I think that's, like, it's one of the reasons.
Yeah. If you and a Thunder fan we're at a bar talking, and that Thunder fan, if all he listened to was ESPN and you listened to your Thunder podcast, he would have been like 5 to 10 minutes into the conversation. He was like, hey, man, who do you listen to? Like, where do you get your Thunder stuff from?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's like I wrote about Carson's soccer career a few weeks ago, and it was one of the things I was almost kind of laughing about it. We would drive from here to Tupelo and back, and it was 50 minutes each way, and this was the year that the Thunder had 3 picks, and they were pretty shitty, and they were all in the lottery. And we would do this little game all the time where we would do the tankathon, and the Thunder would land wherever, and we're like, okay, who would you pick? And we're debating these guys. I mean, we talked so much about Paolo Banchero and Jabari Smith Jr. and Chet Holmgren to the point where, God, I felt like I knew those guys. And those were the kind of shows we would listen to Down the Dunk, where they would do these breakdowns these thorough breakdowns of Paolo Banchero's game and Jabari Smith's game and how those guys would fit with the Thunder and Chet and what happens if they fell. And, I remember it vividly. Andrew Schlecht, who is now with The Athletic, proof of if you're really good at something, people will discover you. Andrew Schlecht started talking just in the week to 10 days before the draft about this big wing at Santa Clara named Jalen Williams. And when the Thunder took Jalen Williams with the 12th pick in the draft, when it came up, Carson and I both were like, oh, that's that dude Schlecht has been talking about. And I mean, it was like, that's the only reason we knew about it was because of this very specific media. You don't get that nationally. And I think that's the trend is, especially with young people your age, you guys, you want to hear specific stuff about your specific interest, not just general drivel.
Yes. And just because I want to get some of your takes on some college basketball stuff. This is my last professional thing, because I didn't even know about this ESPN dropping MLB. Y'all put me on to that. Like, because honestly, like, I'm like, when it comes to like watching, like, I'm so plugged off on it, man. Like, I watch YouTube TV, like I watch games, like, and stuff like that. I'm not into the minutia of what they're trying to do, unless it's regarding the SEC. But are they trying to try to replace MLB programming with WNBA programming?
Ooh, I haven't heard that.
Because I see the WNBA season is from May to October.
If you told me that ESPN tries to force some of that, I'd buy it.
Why are they doing that, man?
It's ESPN. It's kind of who they are. It's part of their deal with the NBA. They don't. But look,
I will say
They don't.
I will say, because
they don't get ratings on Major League Baseball, and so they're coming from a. I always use the ladder example. You've probably heard me do this. Like if you're on a ladder to like change a light bulb or something, okay? The higher up you are on the ladder, the riskier it is, right? Obviously, if you're at the top of the ladder and you fall, you can get really hurt. But if you're just on the first step of the ladder, like you can have a beer in one hand and the light bulb in the other and be screwing around. And if you fall, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're not going to get hurt. I mean, you might scratch your knee up or something, but you're not going to get hurt.
You're going to be more upset about your beard than how hurt you are.
100%. You're not going to get hurt. You might bruise something, but you're not getting hurt. You're not going to have to be on crutches. You're not going to break something. You're not going to die. You're not going to get paralyzed. You're not going to suffer some serious injury. I mean, worst case, I guess you could sprain an ankle, but you're not getting hurt. And that's where ESPN is, I think, with baseball. It's like, we're on the bottom of the ladder. Screw it. We can take a chance on something else.
I think any sport could work if you wanted to. It's about trying to be innovative and finding some ingenuity by getting it to the people. But I guess that's another topic for another day.
Yeah, I don't think baseball does a good job of marketing itself. And I don't think
they don't.
And I don't think their TV partners do a very good job of marketing. And look, I saw you in a stream today, I think on McCready and Siski, and you said it. Baseball can be boring now. I mean, games last forever. And I mean, I live with an 18-year-old boy, and he watches some NBA. He watches a good bit of NBA. He watches some English Premier League. He's a big Chelsea fan. He doesn't watch Major League Baseball, and his dad's a big baseball fan. I mean, I took him to the World Series. I mean, he's been around. It's too long. He just doesn't like it. He doesn't like it. It's too long. The season's too long. The games are too long. They just drag. You're not going to get young people to sit and watch a baseball game for 3 hours and 20 minutes. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, but what's crazy is, and I promise this is my last thing. I just remember growing up, because I grew up with my granddad for the first 8 years of my life. And, man, he would sit – when it's baseball season, that's what's on. And he's sitting in the kitchen or in his bed, and he'll watch the full game. He watch this pitch. Look at this. And I'm like – and this was, when I was younger, he talked about how he was when he was a kid. And it's just crazy now. But
it's so different from when I was a kid. I mean – I grew up in Ruston, Louisiana, and we knew in my neighborhood, man, we knew everybody who played for the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Royals. I mean, I can name more cats who played for the Royals in 1980 something than I can who play for the Royals right now. And I saw the Royals in person last summer. I mean, it was just everybody knew who Willie Wilson and George Brett and Hal McRae and Freddie Patek and UL Washington with the toothpick in his mouth and Willie Mays Aikens, and you knew about Dan Quisenberry and Brett Saberhagen. I mean, those are just Royals. I mean, everybody knew everybody knew the Yankees starting lineup. I mean, you knew the Dodgers starting lineup. Everyone knew it, even the casual sports fans as kids. And it's just different now. I don't know where baseball lost it.
But it's different now because when I grew up, you talking about baseball, and I'm wondering, and maybe I'm trying too hard to connect things. But do you think having less people having less children killed baseball? Because when I grew up, that's not the game we played. We played football and we played basketball because it was just enough of us in the neighborhood. And now I asked my little cousin, what they talk about at school. And he was like, we talk about, like live streamers and soccer. Yeah. And I was like, what?
And video games. Yeah.
I'm like, huh?
I mean, I do think there's some of it with the phones and stuff. And I don't know about this. That's a big, I'd have to get somebody smarter than me like Josh and hand him that and see what he said. I just think things are cyclical, I think there's so much sports on TV now that you're inundated with it. You know, like when I was a kid in Louisiana, like if I saw Oregon football play, it meant they made the Rose Bowl. You know what I mean? That's the only way I saw it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it. I mean, now as a guy in Oxford, Mississippi, if I just decided, hey, I'm going to adopt Oregon as my team and I'm going to watch them every week, doable. I mean, I can do it. I can watch every game, and I can read all about them. I could know as much about Oregon from here in Oxford, Mississippi, as I could if I lived next door to that stadium in Eugene.
Which is crazy now. It's
It's
that's
just
what
different,
changed everything.
right? I mean, it's just so I don't know whether it's just there's so much there. Like I still laugh about the English Premier League stuff. You know, like Carson gets The Athletic just to read the stuff about Chelsea. And I'm like, when I was a kid, I didn't know there was a thing called Chelsea. I didn't know what that was. I mean, I knew about Pele.
Yeah,
I knew Pele. That was it. That's all I knew about.
Yeah,
was Pele.
exactly. And I knew Mia Hamm when I was little. We had Mia Hamm. I knew her.
Hey, trivia question: Mia Hamm and me, we both were born in the same hospital in Selma, Alabama. How about that?
Really? You from Selma? My grandma from Selma. My granny was born in Selma, man.
I was born there. I'm not from there, but my parents were living in Marion, Alabama at the time, and they drove to Selma when it was time for your boy to make his big world appearance.
Well, how about that, man? How about that?
I
was gonna say with college basketball, I was watching the Georgia-Florida game, and I was watching Florida come back. And when Florida took the lead and Walter Clayton, my goodness, man, that boy could play for me anyway.
Oh, he's
but when they took the lead, my first thought, and maybe it's just because of the way I felt, I said, man, on its best day, on its very best day, I mean, when you dress it up and make it as pretty as possible, Georgia is the 14th best job in the league. And I said they're probably going to be Georgia fans who were, going to be calling for Mike White's head or whatever had they lost or the season not, turned out the way they wanted. But honestly, if you were to slot the coaches in order from 1st to 16th and then slot what the jobs could be from 1st to 16th, I think Mike White is higher than where Georgia ranks on the job list. I think he's higher on the coach list than the job list.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah,
and
he's higher than 14th. And
yes,
I think you're right. I think Georgia
on its best day, bro.
Best 14th.
Day.
On its worst day is 16th.
It's easy. On its worst day, it's not even close.
And they've kind of admitted as much with some of their rev share talk.
Yeah, and see, and I was gonna say when I was watching the Texas-Arkansas game, it's the opposite with Texas. They need to get rid of their coach. They need to get rid of him.
Yeah,
where Texas can be on the job list and where their coach ranks, it's not even close. It's the worst discrepancy in the league.
Their arena hosted an NBA game the other day, and it looked like a legitimate NBA arena. I mean, it was awesome, and I mean, he coaches hard, and his kids seem to like him, but they should be better than that.
Yeah,
he's
missed. Arthur Kaluma was better at Creighton than he is. He's been at Texas.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that.
He's almost a non-factor at Texas,
which is crazy.
And I'll give Cal credit. Last night he didn't have Adu Tiro, and they basically have abandoned Trevin Brazil, and they bring him back out of necessity, and he got him to go play. And that's you can't on one hand go the game has passed Cal by, which sometimes I think it has. And on the other hand, not give him credit when he has a game like last night where his team played really hard and really smart. And if my boy, future Thunder wing Trey Johnson hadn't been there, they would have won by 11, 12 points.
Yeah. That ending was crazy. I appreciate you taking my call. I'm going to end you with one thing.
I got a trivia question for you because you always throw trivia questions at me. I've got one for you.
Okay.
Walker Kessler recently, former Auburn player, recently became the third player in NBA history to record a game with at least 25 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 assists while shooting 100% from the floor.
Ooh.
Can you tell me who the two players are? So again, third player in NBA history
100% from the floor
to record a game where he scored at least 25 points. He grabbed 14 rebounds and 5 assists. So you have to have at least 25, 14, and 5 while shooting 100% from the floor.
Okay. That's,
how you on the other foot, huh?
Oh, man. Because I'm thinking of guys, but it's like, no, man, they take too many shots. It's going to have to be a guy that's not taking that many shots, but he also got to be in a position to get rebounds and get assists.
5 assists.
Tim Duncan.
I'm going to give you a hint. It's been done 7 times, but only 2 other people have done it. It's not Muggsy Bogues.
Oh. Is Tim Duncan not one?
It is not Tim Duncan. That's a good guess, but it is not Tim Duncan.
Okay. Chris Bosh.
No, it's not Chris Bosh.
I'm thinking about a good.
One player did it 6
with James.
One player did it 6.
One player did it 6.
And one player has done it 1 time, along with Kessler.
Okay. Has this happened since the year 2000?
One of them has.
One of them has, and one of them did.
That is correct.
Bill Russell?
Bill Russell's a good guess, but it is not Bill Russell. But that is a
okay.
It is an excellent guess as to the person who did it 6 times.
Okay. Look, I got to say LeBron James one time, even though I think he shoots too much.
It is not LeBron. There is a contemporary player who has done it, but it is not LeBron.
You saying there's a guy active now that's done it?
That is correct. There's a player active today, other than Walker Kessler, who has achieved this feat. And then there's
James Harden have done it?
No. It's think Biggs.
Not with the Thunder?
Think Biggs.
Think Biggs.
Yep. That's why I told you Bill Russell was a good guess. You were in the right genre right there.
Joel Embiid?
No.
Shaq.
No.
Because he gonna shoot he gonna dunk on you. What? Okay. Man, this is crazy.
You want me to give you the former player who did it 6 times?
Okay, what? Yeah, what player did it 6 times?
Wilt Chamberlain.
Oh, freaking course.
6 times Wilt Chamberlain. 6 times Wilt Chamberlain had more than 25 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 assists while making every shot he took from the floor. Now, there's a current NBA player other than Walker Kessler who has also done this.
Really?
Yes.
Eastern Conference or Western?
The 100% thing from the floor is what throws everybody off because it's like, whoa.
Yes. Is he in the Eastern Conference or Western Conference?
Western.
It's some dogs in the Western. It's Jokic.
That is correct. Nikola Jokic.
Okay. So, wow.
How about that?
And Walker got away. He still got a ways to go before he actually up there with those guys. I mean, that was a good job.
Pretty good year, though, right now, because Walker's like, yeah, my girlfriend just won Miss America, and me, Wilt, and Jokic are the only people that have done this. Take that.
Yeah.
I mean, Walker's living right, man.
I'm gonna get your take on this off the air, man. And I don't want you to think so hard about this. I don't want you to be like, well, if I'm trying to build a perfect roster, I want my quarterbacks to be the same. No. I just want you to pick them. All right, I'm gonna give you 4 quarters. This a game I want you to play. I'm gonna give you the game, and I'm gonna hang up.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you 4 quarterbacks. Pick 3. leave 1. Then you pick 2, leave 2. Then pick 1, leave 3.
Okay. All right. Let me write it down. All right. Go for it.
All right. Arch Manning, DJ Lagway, Lenore Sellers, and Nussmeier at LSU.
Ooh.
And I appreciate you taking my call, man. Have a blessing.
Good talking to you. Hey, Grind. Yeah. Throw me an email.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get you in contact with Tyler because he needs to talk to you, and you want to talk to him.
Yeah. Okay. I'll make sure I put it in the chat.
Do you have my email?
Isn't it the email? Because I sent life advice to you one time, right?
Yeah, it's my name at gmail.com.
Okay, great. All right. I'll send an email to you.
Okay, buddy.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right. So I got to eliminate one right off the bat. Arch Manning, DJ Lagway, Lenore Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier. I'm going to eliminate Sellers right off the bat just because I don't trust him as a passer as much as I trust the other 3. So I'm down to Arch Manning, DJ Lagway, Garrett Nussmeier. I think I'm eliminating Nussmeier next just based on size and just raw athleticism. So I'm down to Arch and Lagway. This isn't a cop-out. This is just me talking to a lot of NFL people in press boxes, which is something I like to do because I get bored and I go talk to scouts. I'll take Arch. And I might regret that because I love Lagway. And Ole Miss people don't like that, and I totally understand why you don't. He's a stud. I'll go Arch, but I would think real hard about DJ Lagway. I would think real hard about DJ Lagway. You could talk me into DJ Lagway very simply. Arch, you get size, you get intelligence, you get athleticism, and I just get all the NFL people who've seen practices at UT that go, he's a can't miss. Of course, they say the same thing about Lagway. I love Sellers as a college player. I worry a little bit about him as a pro player just because of accuracy and consistency. He could very well prove me wrong this year. And I'm a big Nussmeier guy, but I don't know that I get everything that I get with those other guys. So it's probably the route I'd go. It's a hell of a good question. It's not as good as the Wilt Chamberlain, Nikola Jokic question, but I'm kidding. It's very good. All right, let's see. Had some other questions to get to. Waterworks Reb says, are you more surprised by the influx of NIL in college sports or that you read an ad daily for the infused seltzers on a college football podcast? When not long ago, players getting caught with weed was headline news. Yeah, I'm frequently stunned at everything that has happened, not only in college sports, but with what I do and what we do and the things we advertise. It makes me laugh quite a bit. I'm probably more surprised with how quickly NIL turned into rev share plus NIL plus complete uncontrolled chaos. That probably surprises me more when you think about how quickly that happened. I had a little more time to adjust to, oh, wow, we're actually going to be able to sell advertising that works. AC Reb 92 says it's early, but all indications point to a top 7 to 10 high school recruiting class for football. Do you agree? I do. I think Ole Miss is going to recruit at a really high level. I think that there is a feeling inside that building that they probably shouldn't be as as transfer portal dependent as they've been in the past. And yes, I think they have momentum as a program right now. Lane has been transparent about wanting to build a program where you can recruit elite high school kids and develop them. And I do think we're slowly transitioning back to a model that incorporates that more than it has in recent years. On the flip side of that, Ole Miss has 11 dudes in Indianapolis, and they're all portal guys. So it's a great question, really is. CC Trey, which team are you taking in a 7-game series? All of these players are in their prime. So Team A has Chris Paul, Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady, Dirk Nowitzki, and Shaquille O'Neal. Dear God. All right, Team 2 has Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Dwight Howard. Oh, that's really good. That's really good. All right. So Team A's deficiency is Chris Paul can't guard anybody. Team B's deficiency is Steph Curry can't guard anybody, so that cancels out. I get Kobe and Shaq and that dynamic. I get Dirk as a shooter who can also do everything. And I get the freak athleticism of Tracy McGrady on Team A. On Team B, I get Kawhi Leonard, who is an elite defender and would be allowed to just be a defender on that team. So you're going to get Kawhi on Kobe for 7 games at their primes. Holy hell. That would be awesome. That would be so awesome. Oh, my God. I get Dirk and KD, who are essentially the same player. I think KD is a better Dirk, but it's close. I get LeBron, who's better than McGrady. LeBron's an elite player in his prime, my God. All right, first of all, I pity the officials in this series. They can't win. There's no way they can keep up. All right. I think Team 2 is going to be able to shoot their way to at least 2 wins in a 7-game series. Shaq's going to dominate Howard at least once. I've got Kobe, his will. I've got Kawhi and his will. LeBron and his will. I think Team 2, Team B, Steph, Kawhi, LeBron, KD, and Howard win in 7 games. But it is really hard for me to bet against Kobe Bryant. But man, I get a lot with Kawhi, LeBron, and KD that can cover up Howard, and I get Steph shooting. But that would be a phenomenal series. Like basketball heaven would have that matchup, and people would just watch in absolute awe. I went down the Lynn Bias thing the other day. It's kind of one of my things. I talked to his mom once, and I've always been a Lynn Bias person. There's a photo from 1980 of Lynn Bias and Michael Jordan at a camp jumping center. And it's one of the biggest what ifs in basketball history. Lynn Bias was so good. What would have happened with the Celtics? Larry Bird was getting older. Still had McHale and Ainge and Parrish and all those guys pretty much in their primes. If you'd added a young Lenny Bias to that team, how does that rewrite NBA history? There's just something to think about, a what-if hypothetical that we unfortunately will never be able to answer because of the tragedy of his death. Beham Reb 25 says, you and Josh Hendrickson had a great conversation about parenting, and you mentioned it as the most fulfilling thing you've done in your life. Was that something you've always felt or a thought that has evolved as the kids have gotten older? He says, I've got an almost 4-year-old and an almost 1-year-old, and some days are just freaking hard. Being a parent is awesome, and I know this is selfish, but I do miss the days of just hanging out with my wife. I do not want to wish this time away, but as someone who has never been a baby guy, I do wonder if I will enjoy parenting more as they get older. Sorry for the length of the whatever. No, man. I mean, I don't think that makes you selfish. It is hard. Those days are hard. Having a 1-year-old is hard. 4-year-olds are a lot of work. And sometimes at that age, it's not as fulfilling as maybe you think it should be because the kids can't really communicate to you in a way that makes you know you're appreciated. And that can be unfulfilling, I guess. The difference is at that age, a 4-year-old, you are God. You are Superman. You're kind of everything at that age. And you will miss these days. You don't want to wish them away. You will miss them. I do think it becomes more fulfilling as time goes, as you realize that you're developing little people, not just little creatures that eat and sleep and poop and are constantly in need of things. As they become individuals with their own strengths and weaknesses and things, I think it becomes more fulfilling at that point, probably. Yeah, maybe I'm different than a lot of people. I mean, I get asked sometimes, like, what's your one life regret? And mine's, I wish we'd had 4. I wish we'd started earlier. It's been the most fulfilling thing I've done. I love being a dad. I'm a firm believer in you're as happy as your most miserable child. I think that's true. But man, don't put that kind of pressure on yourself. Like you said, being a parent is awesome. It's also hard. There's no book that you can go buy to teach you how to be a parent. It's something you just sort of have to learn and develop. And I'm going to venture to guess that you're doing great, that you're thinking about it that much. You're probably doing a hell of a lot better than you think you're doing. But kids are fun. Don't let the bad days get you down, because typically the stuff that is, quote, bad, like, a play date didn't work out, or a kid got sick, or somebody failed a test, or you forgot a homework assignment, or you didn't make it to the soccer game, or whatever. Those things don't matter. They don't matter. They're over literally at that moment. And then you'll start to enjoy the good times. You'll start to focus on the good, and the good outweighs the bad, just 8 million to nothing. I'm responding to something real quick. Hold on. Speaking of kids, our Finnish exchange student was asking me a question that I needed to answer. Let's see. Other questions. Piggybacking off this topic, this is Ham Slam 12. Was there ever a time in your life that you fully realized, it'll be okay, the money will come, we'll figure it out, and actually believed it when growing your family? If not, are you able to see that point in your life more clearly as you reflect on the past? I don't know that you ever get to that place, because kids are expensive, and there's always something with cars and college tuition and just stuff. Things always happen. But to answer your question, I think there was a point, 2015, 2016, when we started really being able to sell the podcast, that I was like, hey, this might actually work. It might be okay. I don't know that I'm really wired that way to ever fully be satisfied, or to feel like it's all going to be okay. And there's a little bit of cynicism and skepticism just in my brain that makes me always think that the other shoe is about to fall. PC Rebel says, you often get the which would be the worst categories of food. What would be your top 3 foods to eat if calories didn't mess with your head? Pasta dishes, man, like really good Italian restaurants with pasta is probably maybe my favorite thing. Really good fried chicken. Like, I love it. I don't eat it because it gets in my head, but that would be one. I'm trying to think what else. Enchiladas. Like, how you go to Mexican places and, like, I'll end up getting like the street tacos or something because I'll convince myself that that's a little less fattening than the enchiladas with the mole sauce and all of that. That's amazing. If I didn't have to think about the calories, I would never do that. Collierville Rebel asks, would you rather have $100 million and be super famous, like you can't leave your house without paparazzi in your face, or $5 million and completely unknown? Is it crazy that I'd think about the $5 million? I mean, I think I'd want the $100 million, but I wouldn't want that life where everywhere I went, people were in my face. I don't think I would be a happy person. And I think I could make $5 million pretty comfortable and fit my lifestyle in a way that I think I'd be okay. I think it's the $5 million. I wouldn't want to be one of these people that everywhere you go, the cameras in your face. I would drive. I like privacy way too much. I like alone time, me time, way too much for that. By the way, on answer to an earlier question about date night, just time with your wife, make sure that you have that. Figure out a way to make sure you have that. That's worth it. If you have to pay a babysitter extra, if you've got to take something out of your budget to pay for that, to go on a date or a weekend, whatever the case may be, you should mix that in. That's important. It's really, really, really important. Deuce McCuster 22 says, when Chuck returned to Memphis and Castaways, where was hand raised guys that said seafood at his return party probably wasn't a good idea? Every time I watch that movie and he's got the crab legs, I think that is so stupid. That would be the last thing he would have possibly wanted. There's a lot in that movie. I'd love to do a deep dive on that one sometime. I watched it again around Christmas time, and I had so many thoughts. Bear Shark 18, if you were in charge of the Big Ten SEC Challenge, how would you work the schedule? Would you schedule it in advance? Would you wait until after the season and set the matchups based on previous order of finish? Would you spread it out over the first few weeks of the season or hold the event over a 1 to 2 weekend period? All right, I'm deranged on this. I'm going to be honest. If I were in charge of scheduling, SEC would go to 9 games, and the SEC and the Big 12 would play 2 games against each other every season. I would pay for all of my rev share right there. Those 2 deals would pay all my rev share. Season tickets would be awesome. I'd be able to sell them because everybody would want to come to the games. And I would do it based on the previous order of scheduling, sort of like the NFL does, where if you win the division, you play 1s, finish second, you play 2s, on and on. I know it wouldn't line up perfectly, so you'd have to work something out to make it line up perfectly, but it would be something along those lines, and I would do it at the beginning of the year, probably in weeks 2 and 3. So everybody would get a warm-up game against Sisters of the Poor, and then we dive right into that puppy. My backdoor cover says, what are my 3 favorite sports movies ever? For love of the game. I realize that makes me sappy. It's the best bad movie ever. I could watch it 1,000 times. I don't know why I like it so much. I just do. Major League. I love Major League. It makes me laugh every time. And maybe Hoosiers, and maybe that's just me being a little sentimental about Gene Hackman on the day of his passing at the age of 93, but I do like Hoosiers a lot. So yeah, thanks to everybody for all the questions. That's great. Made today's show a lot easier to navigate. I really appreciate that. Thanks to everyone who called. Again, we'll have coverage at rebelgrove.com all weekend. Ole Miss Wright State baseball starting on Friday. Ole Miss Oklahoma basketball Saturday at 1 o'clock. We'll have coverage of that, 10 weekend thoughts, and more as we get closer and closer to the end of the season. I thought there was going to be like a junior day event this week because we turned to March on Saturday, but I'm told by people at Ole Miss that it's still a dead period. So I think the recruiting visits and stuff are waiting for spring football, which is in about 3 or 4 weeks at the end of March. So we'll start picking that up as well. So again, thanks to everyone who called. Thanks to everyone who participated in the stream. Appreciate all of you guys. Hope you have a very great and safe weekend, and we will be back with another week of podcasts starting on Monday here at MPW Digital. Thanks again to Comer and Southern for sponsoring this content each and every Thursday night. We appreciate them incredibly much. Until then, take care.